Well. Hello, everyone. I'm Postmaster Radio, and it's time to bring on the funny. You're listening to Ujokes Weekly, the one and only podcast highlighting Jonathan Mangum's fantastically funny virtual comedy show Ujokes, where comedians compete for the most laughs, plus you guys and gals playing on YouTube, Twitch, and wherever else also have a chance to dominate. It's literally comedy gold at your fingertips. And today, I'm counting down my picks for the top 5 jokes from this week's Ujokes show, which also served as the 100th Ujokes show overall. I'm so excited. Details to come, but first, if you missed last week's show with Chip Nicholson taking on returning Ujokes player Ariel Elias, catch up via the podcast link in the description. You can also check out the full Ujokes show on the Ujokes YouTube channel. Plus, to continuing listeners, brand new ones too, thank you so much for joining me today. If this is your first time listening and you happen to be listening from either Apple Podcasts or Podchaser, please leave those ratings and reviews if it's not too much trouble. Now, about the Ujokes 100th show. This was such a great episode. In it was Wayne Brady, and that's it. No one else really worthy of competing against the legendary Mr. Brady. Except for Mr. Bundt, that is. Yeah, that's right. Wayne played against himself, in case that was not clear. So, he had 2 jokes per game, 4 jokes in one of the games, which we'll get to at some point. That made things really difficult. If it wasn't difficult enough already, now it was, for the audience to beat Mr. Brady and Mr. Bundt. Now, the only question is, does Wayne pretty much dominate on this week's Ujokes Top 5 Countdown? You'll find out for yourself. Oh, and of course, please do stick around for the Ujokes Awards full of additional highlights. But now, without further ado, let's get this going. Spot number 5 on the countdown before we get to Wayne Brady or Mr. Bundt. For that matter, we need to go to a game called What Is This a Commercial For? This joke in particular comes from Team Audience. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention the pig. This was basically a turkey, but with a fish head on it. And the dude from Twitch that came up with this epic joke, Mike Marlowe, you know the turducken? You've heard of that dish before, the turducken? Replace the D with an F. Yeah, let that sink in. 3, 2, yeah, now you got it. That was the joke. Well done to that funny dude. Oh my god, such a great joke. Honestly, were it not for Wayne Brady playing in this week's show, and, well, him and Mr. Bundt, and like 2 jokes in one for each game, honestly, I think that Efkin joke would have a better chance of, ranking a little bit higher up on the countdown. But like I said earlier, it's tough to compete with the legendary Wayne, or his accomplice Mr. Bundt for that matter. Anyway, speaking of the 2, they both wind up at spot number 4 on the old Ujokes countdown, this time for a game called Dream Interpretation. You may remember that game, the picture of the stormtroopers, but they only have their masks on. The challenge that Wayne / Mr. Bundt and the audience faced was coming up with the answer to this question: if that image were to pop up in your dream, what the hell would it mean? And I'll be honest, whether you were rooting for Wayne Brady or Mr. Bundt, both of them definitely dominated in the game. No offense to Team Audience. We will actually come back to the joke from the audience later near the end of the podcast, as I've got a huge list of honorable mentions to come from the audience. But anyway, now on to the comedic shenanigans of the Brady and the Bundt.
I've had this dream so many times, and I always link this dream to sexual prowess. Your boys have a clear shot, and they keep shooting, but they can't seem to hit anything. Much like the troopers always are shooting, and they never hit anything. So it's a very nuanced, they never do, but then as soon as they get hit, they go down easily. So that's what
but like you'd think that in Star Wars, you think there would be like the Marines of the Empire sent to protect the Death Star. They can't even hit anybody. There's a 12-foot tall Wookiee that they can't even singe his hair.
Exactly. That's exactly it. This is an impotence-based dream. They can't hit the hairy Wookiee, no matter how much they try to hit the hairy Wookiee, and then they're trying to get Han, but they can't get it done.
And they're stuck solo.
And they're stuck solo.
Maybe Mr. Bundt has a different interpretation.
This is a dream I had where all the sequels sucked after I loved the original. It's like, oh no, please. Oh, Lucas, don't hand over the keys to the Empire to other idiots. Oh, please don't get mired down in political posturing. Oh, I don't give a damn about the nuance of the Empire. Just shoot a damn gun. Pew, 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 pew. That's what I want to. Give me a Sarlacc. Or, you know, I'm talking about the sequel suck. That's what this means to me.
Well, you and everybody else, I think.
Well, one thing is for sure, may the funny be with you, and it definitely was. So congrats, Wayne Brady, and you too, Mr. Bundt. And speaking of the Brady and the Bundt, our new favorite comedic duo continues to dominate at spot numero 3 on the countdown. This time for Name the Movie. You know that picture of the motorcycle rider, but instead of riding a motorcycle, he's riding a bear? Yup, that's the pic I'm talking about. And you know, you gotta love Wayne Brady and both of his jokes. From the real deal Brady himself.
I'm gonna have to say that this is from that very adult film called Berenstain, A Bear Love Story.
And then, of course, his alternate persona for the week, which, oh my god, that's some seriously great character work.
This is one of those movies made in the early 90s when they was trying to integrate a lot of hood movies. It's called Boys in the Thousand Acre Wood, Christopher Robin's Last Ride.
Oh, man. A Christopher Robin's reference. That is what I'm talking about. You have lived, sir.
The Brady and the Bundt coming to NBC. Or is it CBS? Whichever network would make the joke funnier. Well, as much as I'm enjoying the Brady and the Bundt shenanigans, we have to take a break from the Brady and the Bundt for a little bit and interrupt that featured program for this one. The Amy Kahn Variety Hour. She winds up at spot number 2 on this week's Ujokes Countdown, playing though as last show's best, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. But because she won, she got to compete against Wayne in the final round of play for a game called Happy Hour, which luckily for her, that game was also played last week. That also helped her get a one-way ticket to last show's Bestville. Anyway, Happy Hour this week for the picture of Donald Duck having a drink.
First, I'm going to go with Smoke and Quack. Then, obviously, it's got to be a single malt scotch. Then he looks kind of daisied and confused, but I really think it's Duck Ales. Woo-hoo!
Oh yes, the comedy assassin Amy Kahn. She won that game of Happy Hour. What a crazy and unexpected way to wrap up the night is what I would be saying if I only saw Amy playing for the first time, which, of course, we all know that's not true. This, fun fact, was her 7th appearance on the show. And with that knowledge in mind, you know that Amy inevitably always brings it, so congrats once again to the tough to take down Amy Kahn. But ultimately, despite being a quadruple threat during the game, it was not enough to beat the Brady and the Bundt. Yes, I'm gonna keep doing that for the rest of the show today. Anyway, the Brady and the Bundt landing at spot number 1 on the old Ujokes Countdown, this time from a game called What's It Mean? Although in this case, it's actually more of Mr. Bundt dominating. Why? Well, you'll see in a minute. But first, here's your need to know. The word Pudfuggler. And you know the game, of course. Wayne and the audience, you guys had to come up with a fake definition for said word. Wayne had 2 jokes, one Pokemon themed, one about the perineum, but ultimately not enough to beat Mr. Bundt and his 2 jokes. One involving an adults only night spot, and the other being this.
It's also the little-known rank in the Italian mob family, right under consigliere and right above capo. You are the Pudfuggler.
Pudfuggler, you're moving up in the business. I like it.
Ah, yes, Mr. Bundt, proving that the only person who can beat Wayne Brady is pretty much Wayne Brady playing someone else. Well, great jokes overall from this week. But now we go on to, because the top 5 countdown is finito. Next up is the Ujokes Awards, which is kind of like the Oscars, except funnier. So much funnier. Comedian of the week, no question about it, as if I even need to say it, but congratulations, Wayne Brady. Next up is Game of the Week, and that's going to go to actually not 1, not 2, but 3 games. Dream Interpretation because of the Star Wars pick, and because of the great jokes all around. Commercial, purely because of the Efkin joke. And Happy Hour, partially because of the Donald Duck pick, partially because of Amy Kahn, but overall because it was a great game to wrap up the 100th Ujokes show. Oh, and speaking of Amy Kahn, congrats Amy, you have once again won the Audience Award for your 4 jokes from the game, along with our Twitch dude behind the Efkin joke, aka Mike Marlowe. And last but not least, Manga Moment, the award that shines the spotlight on Ujokes show host Jonathan Mangum. Now, as much as I want to give it to the whole show, and I will in my mind, the official winner of the Manga Moment comes from the Name the Movie game with Jonathan's joke. Going back to the pick, by the way, with the motorcycle and the bear, just in case you forgot, the joke that Jonathan had, with it being a sequel to Brokeback Mountain, Bareback Mounting. Bareback Mounting. Pretty clever, Jonathan, and that is gonna do it for the Ujokes Awards, but I've still got a few more jokes up my sleeve, specifically your jokes. We have a long list of honorable mentions. We actually don't usually do honorable mentions for most Ujokes podcasts because most of the time I do only one show per podcast, but in this week's case, there were so many great jokes that I do want to mention, all of which from Team Audience. And I'm gonna go in order of when these games were played and when these jokes were picked by Jonathan's producer Josh. Starting off with Name the Movie, the official joke from Team Audience, shout out to Motown fan No Handlebears. And then What's It Mean, going to Justin Pudfugler being a puddle of fugglers. Then Dream Interpretation, the official joke to represent Team Audience, came from Brandon K, Laundry Day at the Death Star. And then my joke, which ended up being picked a few seconds after, Your Father Finds Your Lack of Social Life Disturbing, which I thought was pretty funny, as well as my joke from Happy Hour that got picked to represent Team Audience in that game. You know at the beginning how Wayne was wiping off a stain given to him by his godson, and then there was a whole thing about burping the baby, and well, long story. Point being, my joke from that one, not burping the baby, but burping the duck. So yeah, those 2 jokes of mine, in my humble opinion, were pretty decent. I did not consider them, though, for this week's podcast because I am the host of the Ujokes podcast, so I don't know about you. To me, that would seem a little unfair. But then one more honorable mention from the old audience, and it comes from Amy Kahn. Specifically the joke that helped her win last show's best. Not from this week's playing of Happy Hour, but last week for the picture of 2 nuns at a bar. We had duck ales this week. Last week, though, Ale Mary. To that I say, well done, Amy. And once again, Team Audience, great job to all of you. It's too bad some of your jokes didn't make the countdown, but it was definitely hard to beat Brady and the Bundt. Did you have to sing that again? Oh, yes, I did. Nah, but seriously, great job, you guys. And although the joke vault is now empty, it will be refilled again in the new year with more Ujoke shows to come. So stay tuned. 2022, more Ujokes fun. In the meantime, go back to this week's show and type in your jokes in the comments section for a chance to win last show's best and compete in the final round of play against the pros and Team Audience on the next show. You can also, while you wait, get merch to support Ujokes and another show that's on hiatus, FMK Champs, hosted by College Humor's Carolyn Page. Do that via the link in the description. There's also a link to the Ujokes website created by Ujokes fanatic Craig in the UK, which I would recommend you check out as well. And with that being said, that is it for the last Ujokes podcast of 2021. I hope you had a great time. Thanks for listening. Be sure to stay connected with me on Twitter and Insta at Postmaster Radio. Plus like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review on Spreaker, Spotify, the Apple and Google podcast platforms, anywhere you get your podcasts. All of the account links in the description for easy access. And until next year, well, bye for now, and keep on being funny. See ya!